speaking to us live from the pub.
I am.
Are you open today?
We are open. Got some mulled cider on the go. Well, I haven't, but the pub has.
Obviously, well done.
Mulled cider would be quite useful, actually. Matthew's next door in his secure studio. And I'm in mine. So here we go with today's festive tale. And I think, although it's quite shocking, I think most people will feel as though they've come quite close to doing something similar.
Oh, really? Oh, good.
It comes from Saz. Thank you, Saz. Saz. S-A-Z. What's wrong with that?
Nothing. No. Saz?
Oh, I added an extra Z.
I feel as though you've judged already just based on the fact that someone is called Saz.
Okay.
Mr. Dursley next door. Father Simon and the Christmas Collective. This happened, says Saz, around 30 years ago, and both parties involved in my sinful tale are long since deceased. So there is little risk of offending anyone. I don't know about that. But I've changed the names anyway. My mother, who I'll call Joan, was very elderly and pretty confused a lot of the time, but pottered through her life contentedly, her evening glass of gin helping somewhat in this respect. As indeed it does for all of us.
It does, doesn't
Or
it?
a mulled cider,
Really
maybe this time of year. Maybe that's why she was confused. But anyway, Mum had an old friend who I'll call Alice, who was also my godmother. In truth, my mum didn't like Alice and used to make wild gestures at us whenever Alice rang and we'd picked up the phone, knowing that she would be in for a good hour of moans and complaints. We got quite good at her sign language and inventing creative excuses as to why Mum wasn't available for a chat. It's my belief that all families are like this. We all have an Alice, and in the day before caller ID, you could be stuck for hours with assorted dreadful members of your family and friends. Happy Christmas.
Yes.
Wow.
Anyway, leading up to what turned out to be my mother's final Christmas, I had bought cards to send to everyone on her usual list of friends, including Alice. I duly addressed and stamped all the envelopes, and all I had to do was to put the pile of cards in front of her with a pen and ask her to write Joan in each one. All went swimmingly. Cards were signed, posted in time for Christmas, with a few spares left over. Sadly, Mum died the following February, and many of her friends attended the funeral. Then, almost a year later, a Christmas card arrived for Mum from Alice. And the horrified realization dawned that I had omitted to tell her of my mother's demise. This was unforgivable. She was one of my mum's oldest friends and my godmother to boot, even if we had spent many years trying to avoid any conversation with her at all on account of her moaning. So I did what every caring goddaughter should do in this situation. I found one of the leftover signed cards from the previous year.
Oh, no.
And posted that to Alice. Literally a Christmas card from beyond the grave. Not that she knew that at the time.
Okay.
So she thought she got a Christmas card from my mum as normal.
Yeah.
I then wrote to her the following February with the sad news that Mum had passed away, omitting to mention that this had actually happened a year ago, and praying that she really, really couldn't manage to come to the funeral, as we lived quite a long way away. Anyway, Fortune smiled on me, and
Fortune smiled on me because
I duly received a sweet, if rather belated, letter of condolence. Though the fact that it was a belated letter of condolence was clearly my fault, and not hers. Alice has long since departed from this world, and depending on what you believe, very possibly now knows the truth. But my conscience still weighs heavy on me, even though it's given many people a horrified giggle over the intervening years. I know that certain members of your varied collective advocate lying to their children, and I'm rather hoping that lying to one's godmother might be viewed in the same lenient light.
Very good.
Over to you. Says Saz. Anyway, I suspect that we've all got tales a little bit like this when you're going through the Christmas card list and you realise quite how many on your Christmas card list are no longer with us. And then it's easy to make mistakes and not invite everybody anyway. So I think Saz has been very creative. But let's check in with the voice of moral authority. The woman with a moral compass on the show. That's Sister Susie from the pub.
Well, Saz, I just can't get over this one. I wanted to know what happened if she tried to call. What would you have done if she'd have phoned up to speak to her during a couple of months where she thought she was still alive?
Saz would have put on a voice, I think.
But I think, she didn't want to come to the funeral anyway, so maybe she wasn't that good a friend. Yeah. So I don't want to forgive Saz.
What?
Well, everyone's been trying to avoid her for a long time.
Didn't want to come, did she?
No.
Yeah.
Want to come.
Deserved everything she got.
Brother from another guy.
Yeah, dreadful members of the family. You know what I'm taking from this? I'm taking don't moan on the phone. Don't moan on the phone or else, you'll miss out. That's very much the Christmas message that I think is contained within this confession. Definitely, that's the little moral that I'm going to be sermonising on over the turkey. So, yes, definitely forgiven.
Right, so the true meaning of Christmas is don't moan on the phone.
Don't moan on the phone. There you go.
Even rhyme. The three wise men, gold, frankincense,
and don't go moaning on the phone, Balthazar.
Okay, so...